like we have seen some really interesting things here in the last 48 hours. And
Hmm.
what I'm seeing, let's just dive into Bitcoin here. If you look at Bitcoin, we've broken this 6,200 level. This was a key level. The
Yeah. Hmm.
6,100, 6,200 level. This is a big trend line. And again, this is a daily chart.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of see we had this wedge taking place over the last 6 months. We
Uh-huh.
broke the 6,200 level. Then we came back down and tested this, 58. And then we found some
Mhm.
support. We ran down to 5,200, which is an old level from last year, kind of right around this
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Hmm.
And you kind of see we bounced back. We could not get, we were making lower highs here, could not get back, couldn't even retest these trend lines. And then today we actually saw this thing break 5,000. So
Yeah.
what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing in this market is this is kind of where we're going.
Well, that's what you've been saying for the last, what, 3, 4 months?
Yeah. Is once
Ever since.
5,000 breaks, we're going to cut through 4,000 like butter. Like, kind of see this range here?
Yeah.
This is kind of where we're going. I strongly believe that we will see 3,000 to 3,200. And the reason I like 3,200 is one, you have some nice wicks right here. And also, 3,200 is the break even in China to mine one Bitcoin. So you have to understand, as miners fall below their break even point,
Right.
what happens? They're not going to mine anymore. So in
Hmm.
terms of scarcity and supply and demand, well, okay, now the supply of new coins coming online decreases, scarcity increases, demand is the variable. So if you have
Hmm.
demand constant, then you'd have to assume that price would increase, right? As you have less and
Yeah.
less miners. Granted, the side effects is you have the network slow down and the hash rate slow down, and then the efficiency of
Right. Then the block time just gets ridiculous. That's when you're looking at like 2, 3 days per transaction.
exactly. So there's several scenarios, right? Because then that
Mhm.
could necessarily get real negative, and you could see the spot price fall even farther.
Right.
I don't think that's going to be a scenario we see. I think we're going to hit 3,200, and there's going to be a lot of people trying to protect those positions.
So,
3,000. If we look back here, this 3,000. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your
no,
time.
no, no,
Let me
keep going.
finish.
No, keep going. Keep going.
If we look at this 3,000 level, right? We tested
Mhm.
it, came back off to 1,800, tested it again, and this is when the real move started last year. Was when we broke this 3,000 level. That's kind of when we were off to the races, and you can see we retested it right here. And so what we're doing is we're coming down to give that 3,000 a second test, just to validate that's key support. And then we could potentially move higher, and it's gonna be a choppy trade, but I think we're gonna be bearish kind of the rest of the year, come down here and then slowly grind forward. But sorry,
Yeah.
what were you saying, Tom?
So, my question is, what was what do you see in terms of, is it purely a technical move to the bottom, or was there a fundamental catalyst?
No, in my eyes, in my view, everyone's going to try and paint a fundamental story on this.
Yeah.
This was a big technical play, and then the snowball just kind of rolled. That's one thing you notice when we see the market kind of roll over when there's any big event in the marketplace. A lot of people try and put some kind of narrative behind it because a lot of people are fearful of what they don't understand. They try and search for reasonings for what they don't understand.
Mhm.
Quite honestly, it was just a technical play. The order book thinned out. A lot of bids got pulled. And traders like me and other guys I know in the industry, I mean, that's just kind of cardinal rule. You see this break, you just got to get flat and you just
Right.
kind of hang on and you just kind of wait to find some support. Like I'm sure some guys got in here, and then when it didn't break out really here, then they peeled their positions back off, and that's kind of what you're seeing here.
So,
And this
so
is what
you
we
know,
call a bear flag, and I think we're going to see this continue
right.
all the way down to 3,200.
I think you're right. My question is, you don't think, generally speaking, anytime we've seen a move to the downside since, the big run in January, there hasn't really been any giant news that's coincided with it. I mean, you had a couple of exchanges get hacked earlier in the year, but I'm not. The thing that really bugs me, and thank God I don't have any Bitcoin Cash, but like what you see going on with the Bitcoin Cash fork and basically the hash wars with um, the forking of the two, which is the true BCH, which is not. It's just if I'm an institutional investor or any potential investor from a retail standpoint, and I'm looking at this, here I always get drawn back to why is Bitcoin Cash, other than Roger Ver or Veer,
Yeah.
why is Bitcoin Cash so great? Like, yeah, honestly, if it didn't have Bitcoin in front of it, if it was just like ABC Cash, I mean, truly, it's a fork off of the original Bitcoin
Yeah.
um, network and blockchain. I probably said that wrong technically, but it, if it didn't have Bitcoin in front of it, what would it be worth? I'm a firm believer that it wouldn't be worth anything.
Well,
I
they're just
mean,
trying to capitalize. I mean, yeah, you can sit here and paint the fundamental picture, but at the end of the day, 90% of the investors or traders or speculators don't understand the fundamentals, right? So
no, that's
at the end of the day, all it is a name recognition, and he just Bitcoin Cash just piggybacks on the first mover advantage that Bitcoin had,
I
right?
mean, yeah, and it does have rights to the name simply because it was a fork from the original,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
blockchain.
if I slide this down here, check this out. So here we have, Bitcoin Cash on Coinbase. Coinbase is not reactivated trading. They're kind of waiting to see if one of these chains falters, and right now it looks like the SV may collapse.
Mhm.
But if again you look at just this is the ABC, Bitcoin ABC. I mean, it's just been getting crushed, right?
Didn't KuCoin say didn't they pronounce one to be the true Bitcoin Cash?
Yeah, ABC.
ABC, that's
Yeah,
right. That's why SV is tanking.
SV is getting crushed. You can see the volume here has increased. Um,
Yeah.
but here's what I think is going to happen. I mean, I personally went into the fork. I was real skeptical, but in terms of a risk reward, I said, you know what? I'm gonna get some exposure here. I bought some. I was able to snag some Bitcoin Cash. I kind of
Mhm.
waited till like 5 minutes before all the trading platforms halted trading, and so I was
Mhm.
able to scoop some at 400. Right? Granted, it's down a lot today, but I know some
Mhm.
people that got in at 600. Like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about when Bitcoin Cash was trading 650. We were saying this is a short. We don't need to own this, and think sold off 50% since then. Right? Um,
Sure.
but my thought is,
You double your money.
well, not necessarily that, but once these coins get what a lot of investors are doing, or traders or speculators, whatever you want to call them, is they're sitting on the sidelines waiting for a platform like Coinbase to activate trading again, right?
Mhm.
Of these assets. And that's kind of the trade that I'm waiting for, is kind of the pop off once these things start getting traded like Bitcoin Cash was, right? In terms
Yeah.
of volume. And that's what I'm looking to sell. I think both of these coins, regardless of what happens, granted that they still survive, um,
Yeah.
I think net, like let's look at this. Like Bitcoin ABC, Bitcoin Cash ABC is trading 236 right now. Bitcoin Cash SV is trading roughly $50.
Right,
So
but
the
the
net sum
math.
of those two, if those are greater than 400, I'm making money. And I think that's a high probability at some point in the next week or two.
Right. So the math is, yeah, you might have 400 per coin. I don't know what what your capacity is, but you're essentially adding the two values together because you have
Correct.
both now.
Correct.
Yeah. Makes I don't see anything wrong with that. That makes sense.
So
It's also like hedging your bet. Like it's kind of like spreading your risk around. It's like, all right, I'll invest in this one, and if one takes off, great. If the other doesn't, I'm still not negative.
well, and then here's the other scenario too, right? Is if Bitcoin Cash SV just falters, right? Then
Yeah.
everyone's going to flood into ABC, similar to how, and they're just going to treat ABC just like traditional Bitcoin Cash, and then
Sure.
ABC will trade at a premium, right? So that's the other scenario, and vice versa, right? If ABC were to go down and SV exist, the same scenario. Um, that's just my opinion on what's going on with these hash wars, and how you would trade this event.
Yeah, yeah. From an institutional perspective, though, I gotta believe that a Fidelity or a back, like any institutional investor, is looking at this right now, and this is kind of like I kind of look at this, and this is a rudimentary analogy, but like think of high school players that before they had the 1 year eligibility for the NCAA to go to the NBA.
Yeah,
It's kind of like a showcase, right? So backed and probably all the customers, the clients that'll come in from, Morgan Stanley or, Goldman Sachs or whoever, when they start throwing money at this or allocating a percentage of their portfolio to it, they're going to look at things like Bitcoin Cash and be like, if if the technology isn't sound enough, or if the technology is sound, why did they fork? Or like Ethereum Classic was supposed to be a fork because Ethereum, Ethereum was supposedly hacked, and so Ethereum Classic was supposed to be the unhackable Ethereum. Yet Ethereum Classic got hacked like 2 months after it forked.
Well, and I think we can look at Bitcoin Cash fork as a case study, and that's what it's going to be looked at moving forward. But also, what's going to be interesting is down the road, I believe 80 to 90% of cryptos are going to fall by the wayside.
Right.
And what's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see if if certain projects will try and merge their blockchains, similar
Mhm.
to like a merger and acquisition, like in the traditional space, right?
Yeah.
That's something that this could be crazy, right? But it's plausible. Maybe they have Bitcoin Cash SV and ABC, and they're like, you know what, fuck it, we want to go back to the old system. I would imagine that they can find a way to do that, or create a separate blockchain and say, hey, you know what, this is what we're going to do. Um, that hasn't happened yet, to my knowledge, in any cryptocurrency in existence. But I would have to think that we're going to probably see that happen as time moves on, and 80% of these things kind of fall by the wayside.
If I was doing a little fun exercise today, I was looking at snapshots of May
Hmm.
every year,
Yep.
going back in the historical profile of CoinMarketCap. It's pretty funny to look at the top 10 coins
Oh yeah.
and like just how often they change. It's so funny.
Yeah. Everyone always gets wrapped up in those coin market cap kind of headlines, but
I know.
here's something interesting. If you want to see something real interesting here, let me pop this screen out and get back to the main screen. Um, Bear with me one moment. So we're looking at Bitcoin here, right?
Hmm.
So everyone talks about parabolic. Everybody always talks about, and I'm on the Coinbase feed, but everyone loves to talk about parabolic moves, right?
Hmm.
So if you were to look at this, right? If you look at this is fucking parabolic, right? Look at the prices though.
Oh, yeah.
Now look at this move, right? Another parabolic move, crazy move, and then it comes off, right? And again, the time frame is very different, but just an idea. Like parabolic, you see pretty much a 90% retrace. Oh, look where we kind of came down to. See this 475 level, tested it, rebroke, and now look, we came back and tested it. Tested it once, tested it twice. Another example of quote unquote parabolic move. You see what I mean? And that's what people get confused is they get all caught up in kind of this, and don't get me wrong, it's a large move, but it's all relative, right? So if you go back here to these May, and that's one thing we're going to talk about on the rest of the video, is some of these other altcoins, is kind of where the big support levels are. Like we've broken some key levels across the board. I think things are going to get real ugly here in the next month and a half, and what is that? A famous Rothschild, J.P. Morgan saying is, when there's blood in the streets, that's when you want to buy. There's
Yeah.
gonna be blood in the streets here very shortly. Just wait for all the people that that have been diehard crypto guys that say, you know what, I'm over it. And what's interesting is I had some conversations with some people this week who are heavy into crypto, and they're kind